That was a great introduction. Thank you so much. So today, I'm going to be talking about machine learning versus statistical analysis, a framework for analytics methodologies. So what does that really mean? It just means, how do we solve problems as analysts, data scientists, more like people that work with data? So a little bit about myself first. I know they give an introduction, but I went to the University of California, San Diego. That is near Los Angeles. I studied neuroscience and finance. I've worked at Thumbtack 3.5 years. I worked on marketing and product analytics and business analytics on a bunch of different projects. Like they said, I love to travel and be outside. I'm loving the islands in the Philippines. It's my first time here, and it's been amazing. And I'm really passionate about bringing analytical skills and methodologies and making it accessible to everyone, especially for people who don't have a traditional background in analytics. I don't have a traditional background in analytics, and I really like to make something that seems so complicated simple for everyone. So I think nowadays a lot of people, I don't know if it's a debate, but people ask the question, what is analytics? What is data science? We know that they both have to do with big data, but who are the experts of big data, and what sort of skills do you need to be an expert? So when we're talking about data science versus analytics, there's a lot of terms that I'm sure people have heard. There's machine learning, that's a big one. We've probably all heard that. Probability and statistics. Actionable insights. Python, R, SQL, various tools we use to analyze big data. Data visualization, another big one. Problem solving. Business judgment. And predictive analytics. And now you may be asking, which one is data science and which one is analytics? So actually, I really like this Venn diagram. Probably my favorite one is this: if you just have communication, you're full of hot air. I think if you take a look at it, there's some interesting pieces, but something that I actually disagree with is that you can see analysts is right there. There's business and there's statistics and communication, but says they don't know how to do programming. I disagree with this, though. I think Thumbtack thinks of our analysts as data scientists. We do kind of all of the above. And I think nowadays these two are becoming more kind of interchangeable words. And so when you're hearing about data science versus analytics, I wouldn't make such a distinction. I mean, they're just so closely related. So the Thumbtack analytics team, we're building a world-class team to power decisions and unlock growth as the company scales. Wow, that's vague, right? We don't want, on purpose it's vague, we don't want to dictate how we solve problems or the type of problems we solve. Instead, we really want to take the massive amount of data and turn it into meaningful and actionable insights for analysts and non-analysts. A lot of times, as experts in the data, our closest partners are ones that aren't experts in the data, and we really need their partnership in order to take our analysis, turn it into insights, and then turn it into business strategy, business decisions, and moving the company forward. So how do we turn these problems into actionable insights? The Thumbtack analytics team likes to think of various frameworks, and we consider a few major factors in approaching how do we solve the problem, and then how do we turn it into something actionable. So the first thing we consider is what type of problem it is. So there's historical, ad hoc, and predictive. So some examples of historical problems are understanding performance, historical performance. Also understanding product experiments. They technically did happen in the past, and you're trying to understand how an experiment performed in the product. There's also ad hoc investigations. Why has the metric dropped? Why has it gone up? Why is it having this weird trend? Correlation versus causality, we see this a lot in the marketplace. Are two things related and they're causing each other, or are they happening independently at the same time? And then there's predictive, forecasting, understanding trying to predict what the trends will be in the business, opportunity sizing to try to understand our growth opportunities and where we should be looking to in the future. The other kind of way we approach problem solving is it depends on the problem, and it really depends on the stakeholders. So there's three kind of groups we think about in terms of the type of stakeholders. You have your working group, and this is your product team. They're making decisions on product experiments and features for a very narrow set of experiences in the product. You have your cross-functional team, which is usually a collection of these working groups, and they set strategy and decide on a broad range of features and experiences. And then you have your leadership team, which is making high-level, broad company business strategic decisions. And you really want to make sure that they understand your actionable insights. So how do we use the type of problem and the stakeholders at Thumbtack? So I'm going to walk through a few real-world examples of work that other people on the analytics team have done. So this first one, the question we're asking is, how are users engaging with a feature? So Angela is an analyst on our customer growth team, and we built a feature called Project Bundles, where customers can create a list of all the things they want to get done. So maybe I want a handyman to hang the pictures, a TV mounter to hang a TV, someone to come in and paint the living room. I can make a list of all of these and get them all done on Thumbtack. And so the product analytics team, we ran this as an experiment. We wanted to know if this feature drove an increase in the repeat rate of customers coming back to Thumbtack, but we also wanted to know how users were engaging with the feature and get some early insights to see if some of those insights would be predictive of repeat rate. So what was the problem type? It's a product experiment. Our stakeholders were a small working group, the customer growth team, and the methodology. So we ran a control versus variant experiment analysis. A lot of times you can just pull in SQL and see how the two groups performed against each other. And in Python or R, there's super easy packages to understand, like run a t-test between the two groups to understand the statistical significance. And so we checked the statistical significance on both the primary and guardrail metrics. Next problem. This was a big one, a fun one for the team to work on. How do we run an experiment for TV? So I think a lot of us understand experiments as running A/B tests. But how do you test something when you can't run an A/B test? Imagine, okay, we're going to run a TV test in Los Angeles, but somehow we're going to make sure that only half of Los Angeles sees the ad and the other half doesn't. That's not really possible. So in order to test TV to see if it was a good way to grow our customer base, we needed to run a different type of test. We need to run a test where TV goes on in one area but not the other, and then measure the lift. I think the biggest question that our economist Dimitri was trying to understand is, how do we even measure that lift? We had never done anything like this before at Thumbtack. So the problem type is we're trying to understand performance of our TV ads. The stakeholders were both the cross-functional customer growth team. You can tell they're really busy. And our leadership team. TV is a big investment, and it's a big investment for growth. And they were, of course, involved. And the methodology, we ran a market-based test where we chose a state to run TV in, and we picked other similar states that had similar metrics, and then tried to measure the lift off of that. That's what the synthetic control is you put together a group of similar geographies with similar metrics, and then run TV in the variant area, and then try to understand what the overall lift is. Okay, last example. We're a marketplace company, and so we have both supply and demand. Our supply are our service professionals, the handyman, the TV mounters, the plumbers. And our demand is our customers. They come in, they need to have a job done, and they're looking to hire someone to do it. So supply and demand in a marketplace are very intertwined. But for our purposes, we wanted to better understand how supply and demand, independent of each other, impact revenue. So they're both correlated. We need to break apart the correlation and see the impact each one made on its own. We also needed to do this to understand every single geography we're in the US, so that's over 200 distinct geos, and over 500 categories. So that's a lot of unique combinations that we needed to understand for this. So the problem here is ad hoc. This is a totally new metric, a totally new way for us to look at our business. The stakeholders were cross-functional groups across the pro side, our supply side, and customer, as well as the leadership team. And the methodology that Chong on the business analytics team used was the Cobb-Douglas function. This is actually just a linear regression, pretty simple. But when I asked him about this to present to all of you today, data pre-processing was so important. Getting the data in the right format and setting the right parameters up to feed it into the model was the most crucial element to get this model to be accurate and work. So how do we think about problem solving at Thumbtack? I think we talked through some examples, we talked through some frameworks. The thing I don't talk about a lot is machine learning. Our team is not focused on fine-tuning model precision. Instead, we like to think about what is the simplest way to solve this problem, and the best way and the clearest way, putting interpretability at the top. Because interpretability makes it easier for our stakeholders and our teams to take action on the insights we provide. So instead of fine-tuning models, we focus on helping answer the why and providing guidance on the how. And to do this, we think about what's the problem type? Do we really need to use a model to solve this problem? Or will something easier be fine? And we ask that question because our stakeholders. We can have the most perfect model, it's amazing, and you show it to your stakeholders, and they're like deer in the headlights. I don't know what to do with this. And we take the approach that it's much better to have something simpler and understandable, and something that it's really clear on the next steps forward. Also, Thumbtack is hiring. There's a lot of Thumbtack people here tonight, so this is just a few of the roles here in the Philippines. We're hiring a head of analytics. If you want to help lead our awesome analytics team, I've had the pleasure of working with them while I'm here. That's it, and I can answer a few questions if we have time.